Hello everyone, welcome to our first topic. The first topic of this course will be Introduction to Revenue Management. So let's get into it. By the end of this class, you should be able to understand the purpose and historical evolution of revenue management, grasp the complicated universe of revenue management, and analyze the key objectives and benefits of revenue management. So, as a result of taking this class, if any one of you one day consider to get into this field, here are some statistics. About 55% of revenue managers are females. Top degree for this position is an MBA, which is very similar to the degree that you are getting in this program. And the most popular name for the job is revenue manager. So revenue manager is sort of a middle position. The most basic position you can get in this field is a revenue analyst. Then it's a revenue manager. Then on top it would be a revenue director. Most popular employers for this job are Hilton, Starwood, Hyatt, Marriott, and Intercontinental. Years of experience part is interesting. So about 40% of revenue managers have only 1 to 4 years of experience, followed by 5 to 9 years of experience. That's 30% of revenue managers. And when we look between 10 or 20 years or more, it is only about 28%. So this shows us revenue people are mostly from younger generation. Right? They are younger than many other hotel executives, such as financial controller, sales and marketing director, general manager, etc. So, what does a revenue director usually do? So here I changed the terminology from a revenue manager to a revenue director. So this is sort of a higher position title. So here are typical revenue management responsibilities by industry segment. Revenue management, of course, is not only applicable to the hotel industry. It can be applied to any service industry to some extent. And we are going to learn about that also in this class. But for the moment, let's look at this different industry segments. So for full service resorts and hotels, which will be majority of the time the focus of this class, you need to manage the revenue of the guest rooms, of the meeting space, F&B operations, and resort activities. So at the very basic level, revenue management is for the hotel guest rooms. Okay, revenue management started with pricing the rooms. But today it is evolving into other parts of the hotel, including function space, F&B, and resort activities. Cruise ship revenue management is a very interesting one. You need to, price, of course, the whole ticket ride for the cruise, including cabins, F&B operations, and activities. And there's an interesting article on this. It is asking the question, is cruise ship a floating hotel? So can you actually do revenue management for a cruise ship, just like you can do for a full service hotel or resort? It's actually different because check-in, check-out mechanisms are very different, right? You buy the cruise package and you get into this cruise for a matter of 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 2 weeks, whatever the length of stay is, and you don't usually check out early. So it is similar, but not the same. Then we have theme parks. Theme park I see is also very big in Queensland here. This is a very complex revenue management operation because you need to manage the pricing of admission tickets, you need to price your food and beverage operations, rides and activities. This is usually embedded in admission tickets, and also if there are any hotels, you need to price the rooms as well. And for private clubs is another place where revenue management can be implemented widely. So for the example I have here is a golf club. You need to manage the pricing of the tea times, F&B operations, and also meeting space, if any. Here is an example that I like dearly. So this is a comic called Cathy. I don't know anybody in this class knows about it, but I collect Cathy comics, and I happen to see one in relation to revenue management. So here it is. Let's go through it together. So Cathy is at a shop and she would like to buy a hat. And the lady you see in the green dress is Cathy, and the only other person here is the shop assistant. So here are the prices of the hats. Business class hat is $240. Sorry, first class hat is $240. Business class hat is $140. Full coach $90, Saver $80, Super Saver $75, Super Duper Saver $70, Red Eye $60, Rock Bottom $48. So Cathy is shopping for a hat. How much is this hat? Sales lady says, that depends. Depends on what? We have decided to sell clothes the way airlines sell plane tickets. Every hat in the store has up to 20 different prices at any given time that change weekly, daily, or sometimes minute to minute. How much you pay for your hat depends on how desperate we are to unload it versus how desperate you are to buy it. So here, this is economics 101, right? You are looking at the relationship between supply and demand. If supply is limited, demand is very high, then you have a good reason to increase the price. And the sales lady continues. Hats purchased 21 days in advance of hat season are, of course, cheaper than last-minute hat buys. And all prices are lower if you plan to keep the hat over a Saturday night. So here we are introduced to another important concept in revenue management world that is called terms and conditions. Terms and conditions have other names as well. We can call them rate restrictions, booking controls, but they all mean the same thing, right? If you are going to give a discount, for example, to the customer, you need to protect that discount by requiring a 21-day advance purchase from the customer. And then the sales lady continues. Besides the prices we give you, there are 1,500 internet sites selling the same hat, all at different prices. And once you have paid, any exchange of the hat will be a minimum $50 fee, even if all we have to say is, here is another hat. So here we are introduced to the complex world of distribution channels, right? 1,500 internet sites. Of course, it is exaggerated, but you get the perspective, right? The airline tickets are available on many different distribution channels. Actually, today this is worse for the hotel rooms, right? They are available across many different distribution channels. And also, we see here another term and condition related to the exchange of the hat. It will be a minimum $50 fee. So here we see a very frustrated customer. This is the last window we see here. I don't care what it costs, just sell me the hat. And the sales lady says, oops, sorry, the last of our hats got reserved while we were chatting. So here we see what revenue management is all about, right? For the same product, which is a hat here, the hat Cathy is trying, it has many different prices at the same time. And to differentiate these prices, we use booking controls, terms and conditions. And also, at the same time, we are selling this hat across many distribution channels, just like we do for the hotel rooms. And at the end, I think the point of this comic is customer reactions to airlines and hotels' demand-based pricing policies, right? When there are dynamic prices and when you have multiple prices for the same room, for the same night, depending on how you communicate all this information to the customer, you might have a very frustrated and upset customer. So this is the point. So the bigger lesson here is when we give pricing decisions, we have to pay attention to customer reactions, right? And in the old days, people would complain, like write complaint letters or go to the front desk and complain. Today, customers complain through social media, right? They are going to post a comment about you on TripAdvisor or on another channel, which will hurt your reputation in the long run, and you don't want that. Okay, let's continue. So how did revenue management start? So it started in airline industry in United States. So before 1970s, US government regulated US airline industry. So what does this mean? It was the government that decided where airlines could fly, and they also regulated the pricing of the airlines as well. But in late 1970s, they have decided not to do that, right? So the government sort of, took its hands off the airline industry. During this time, there were 3 airlines in the market: People's Express, American Airlines, and United Airlines. So suddenly competition started among these 3, right? They were flying to similar destinations where demand was high, and they were just competing with each other by discounting. And discounts, of course, slashed the profit margins of the airlines. But then American and United Airlines started monitoring consumer behavior. Okay, they realized they have 2 types of customers. They have the business customer, who is less price sensitive and who is willing to book closer to the departure date because they have to be in that destination for business, right? They have to fly on a certain date. Versus leisure customers use their own discretionary income to travel, right? They are more price sensitive. So leisure customers were willing to book in advance relative to the departure date in turn for a cheaper price. So while American and United Airlines started to segment their customers and then apply different prices for different customer segments, People's Express didn't do that. They just had discounted prices all over the place, and they declared bankruptcy. And chairman of People's Express attributed the company's problems to the lack of a yield management system. So the term yield management actually is coming from the airline industry, but when the idea of this concept of yield management moved from airline to hotel industry, it's changed to revenue management. And then hotels looked at airlines, and then they said, hey, wait a minute, we have similar characteristics. We are both in the service industry, and we share similar characteristics. So why don't we also try to apply revenue management? So hotels take over. This started happening in early 1990s, but it truly started, I should say, in early 2000s. But to do revenue management, you need data, okay? Because you are going to try to forecast, like you'll try to forecast occupancy. You'll try to forecast how many guest arrivals will be on a particular day so that you can recommend a price based on the demand forecast. But if you don't have sufficient guest data, you can't do that, right? And to have data, you need to have the right technology, because something we will talk about in demand forecasting chapter, for forecasting purposes, we have a term like garbage in, garbage out, right? If the quality of the data you feed into a forecasting system is not good quality, is not accurately recorded data, then the outcome also, the recommended occupancy by the demand forecasting system will not be accurate either, right? So you need to have the right technology to collect data. And the fact that hotel industry did not collect accurate data, or the amount of data they collected was insufficient to do demand forecasting. Also, you need to collect data for different segments, right? So we have some key questions here. Who are the customers? Why are they in the hotel? What is the individual and group booking pace? So you need to do a proper customer segmentation, right? And you need accurately recorded data. And the hotel industry didn't have this for a very long time. Okay, that's why adaptation was slow, but it started with the big international hotel management companies. In fact, the first hotel company that got into revenue management field is Marriott, Marriott Hotels. So during this process, both price and the duration of stay had to be considered to develop a model of revenue maximization. So revenue management started with an intent to maximize revenues. So here is one of the definitions. I will in this class I will present you a couple of definitions of hotel revenue management, and this is one of them. The essence of revenue management is to set a pricing and selling policy in such a way that at each point in time, hotel can determine what the price should be. Quantity, in terms of quantity, we are talking about number of rooms, right? How many rooms you should sell at what price to different type of customers. Key to revenue management strategy implementation is customer segmentation. We cannot look at our customers as a whole. We have to divide them into small groups with similar characteristics, right? So this is not a marketing class, but I would like to talk about segmentation just a little bit because it is so important. So segmentation can be done in different ways, right? On top we see geographic segmentation and demographic segmentation. These are the most basic and popular ways of segmenting customers, and hotels do this, right? But what I see upcoming and very interesting in revenue management context is the psychographic segmentation and behavioral segmentation. So psychographic segmentation consists of grouping the target audience based on their behavior, lifestyle, attitudes, and interests. And behavioral segmentation focuses on specific reactions and the way customers go through their purchasing processes. So more sophisticated hotel companies started looking at segmentation at the psychographic and behavioral level. So today, doing segmentation by just looking at, geographic versus demographic segmentation is not enough. And to make a point of that, so look at these two people here. We have a musician versus he's actually King Charles now. He's no more the prince. So they are both male, born in the same year, raised in the UK, married twice, they like dogs, they live in castles, and they are wealthy and famous, right? But should we put these two customers, in the same segment? Maybe not, right? So here is also another comic that I like dearly. We have the customer, right, with all these characteristics that the customer is actually selling his own data. So I put this here to make a point about the importance of customer data. To do revenue management, we need to do segmentation. To do segmentation, we need customer data. And why am I emphasizing this here? Because when we work with third-party distributors, like we call them online travel agencies, OTAs, when we get customers from OTAs own customer data and they don't want to share it with the hotels, okay? But owning customer data is the key to do revenue management as an initial step. And this is an area also where revenue management department should work hand in hand with sales and marketing department, right? Because it is truly your sales and marketing people that do the segmentation on behalf of the hotel. Let's continue with the most popular revenue management definition. This definition is given by Professor Sherlock Himes of Cornell University, and it is selling the right room to the right person at the right price at the right time. So how many rights are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we need to get the right room to the right person at the right price at the right time. So we see the element of our inventory, that is the room, right person, right customer segmentation at the right price. Obviously, pricing is the heart of revenue management, and it has to be at the right time in relation to the arrival date of the customer. And over the years, one more definition, one more component rather than a definition was added to this statement, and that is through the right distribution channels. Right room, right person, right price, right time, and right distribution channels. So imagine you need to bring 5 rights together. So this makes revenue management very interesting and very, very challenging at the same time. So this is also the most popular revenue management definition. If you ask anybody out there that has studied or did some sort of training on revenue management, this is a definition that they are going to quote you. Okay, so now let's break down this definition a little bit more and try to understand what revenue management is about. So revenue management is concerned with demand management decisions and the methodology and the system required to make them. So if a company, a hotel company, would like to implement revenue management fully and successfully, you need a system. Okay, because there is so much historical data and currently available data, and you need so much data analysis and processing. This is very difficult to do on an Excel sheet, but there are still companies that run revenue management on an Excel form. But to do it properly and fully, you need a system. And also you need a methodology. And methodology, though, is not something you are going to work on personally, because methodology is the mathematical sort of algorithm. This will be already embedded in the revenue management system, and as a revenue manager or director, you are not going to know how the algorithm exactly works, right? But you need to understand what data goes into the system and roughly how does the system work, right? You need to understand that. So there are many decision concerns, right? You are going to decide when to sell, and when to sell is relative to the arrival date of the customer, right? When should you sell? Then at what price should you sell? And also a very important concept we are going to learn in this class is value-based pricing, right? How much buyers, how much our customers value our products, right? This is very important. And here also we have connection to segmentation. Only when you group customers with similar characteristics, you can create propositions that could be considered valuable for them, right? So next here we have how to segment buyers, how to segment customers. Another concept coming from the field of economics is WTP, willingness to pay. So how can we measure our customers' willingness to pay? And again, we shouldn't do this on an aggregate level by looking at our entire customer base, right? We need to group these customers and then try to understand what is their willingness to pay. And once we segment the customers, then we understand how they value our products and services, and if we can approximate their willingness to pay, then we can decide right then how can we deliver this product or service that is valuable for them and that they are willing to pay for. And then once we have the product or service designed and priced, and we know when to sell, then which channel should we use to sell? And distribution channel management is also a very important chapter in this topic, because once the prices are determined, you need to disseminate pricing information across your direct and indirect channels, right? And it is the revenue director that decides the channel, the best channel to sell this product through. And the last point here, how to communicate pricing information to buyers. Here is where the relations between revenue management and marketing and sales become very important, because it is your marketing and sales department that communicate pricing information to the buyers, right? And price communication, although is a topic of sales and marketing, we cover in this class, because if you price right, but if you don't communicate the prices in the right way, your revenue management strategy is not going to be successful. Then let's look at demand management decisions a little bit more detail, because when you look at these decisions together, you will understand it has multiple dimensions, and these multiple dimensions together actually make revenue management strategy implementation very, very complex. So, and we will interpret this through a hotel room revenue management setting. Okay, we won't even look at total revenue management because it is more complex. When I say rooms revenue management, it means a hotel is doing revenue management just in their rooms department. When I say total revenue management, hotel is implementing revenue management in all or most revenue generating departments, including rooms, F&B, function space, etc. So the first point here is the different products it sells. So when you look at a hotel, you don't only have usually one standard room, right? You have many different type of rooms, and these rooms will represent different value to different type of customer, right? So you need to understand it well. And second, here we see segmentation again, type of customers a hotel company serves, right? And customers' preferences for their products and services, and also customers' purchase behavior. So here also we see the importance of historical data, right, to understand customers' purchase behavior. Third component here is the time. So revenue management addresses three basic categories of demand management decisions, and here is, I think, where it gets very, very complex. Structural decisions, price decisions, and quantity decisions. So structural decisions are about selling format, segmentation, volume discount when you work with wholesalers or where you discuss group type of business, any cancellations, refunds, this can be like early departure, cancellation, no-shows, that sort of a thing. You need a structure and a plan for that type of customer behavior as well. Then we have pricing decisions. So how are we going to price, for example, different type of rooms at different points in time, right? And when you input pricing decisions into a revenue management system, these decisions are for the next 365 days. So this is like tremendous amount of data input, right, and decision making. And also markdown. At what point are you willing to give a discount, or do you have a discount structure that you have in place, right? And how does it work? And quantity decisions. Quantity decisions are related to inventory control. So in, again, hotel room revenue management context, you have limited number of rooms, right, that are perishable. So then how should you allocate this perishable limited capacity to different customer segments, right? When to withhold a product from the market and sell at later points in time, right? So you need to strike a balance between selling in advance and then selling closer to the actual arrival date of the customer, right? If you sell too many rooms in advance, then when the demand is higher, closer to the arrival date, then your revenue management strategy will not work because you sold too many rooms in advance, most probably for a cheaper rate than what you could have sold for them today. Or conversely, this scenario could have been you didn't sell many rooms in advance, so when you come close to the arrival date, now you have big chunk of your room inventory that you cannot sell anymore, right? So you have to understand historical customer behavior so well that you can strike this balance between selling in advance and selling closer to the arrival date. These are just, couple of important demand management decisions a hotel needs to make. So, where does a revenue management system work? So, as I mentioned at the very beginning of this topic, revenue management is not only applicable to airline and hotel industries. They can be applied to many service industries, okay, at least to some extent. So, for a hotel and I'll take the example of a hotel because we have a revenue management simulation application on hotel industry, and majority of the topics we will talk in relation to hotel because otherwise revenue management, like, we cannot cover all the topics in relation to all industries. So taking hotel example, hotels have relatively fixed capacity. Yes, right. Your capacity in this case, we are talking about hotel room revenue management, is number of rooms you have, and they are relatively fixed, right? You cannot easily increase the number of rooms you have. You have some flexibility in within room capacity, right? You can add a crib for the baby, you can maybe have a roll-away bed, so you have some flexibility, but not so much. Ability to segment markets, right? We can certainly segment our customers, and actually we should segment our customers. This applies 100% to hotel industry. Inventory is perishable, and again, when we say inventory here, we are talking about the main product hotel is selling, which is a bed, right? You are selling the room, you are selling the bed. So perishable inventory is that room, and if you don't sell that room tonight, potential revenue from that room is gone forever. So we have perishable inventory. Products sold in advance. Yes, we have our rooms booked in advance, right? This is available to the customers. And do we have fluctuating and predictable demand? Yes, we do. It fluctuates because hotels usually have high season, low season, shoulder season, right? Depending on the type of the hotel and destination. And is the demand predictable? Most of the time it is, based on historical information. Well, COVID changed this a bit, right? With COVID, demand became unpredictable because history stopped repeating itself. But in general, demand is predictable. Next category we have here is low marginal sales cost. Marginal sales cost is the cost of selling one additional unit of capacity. And in the context of hotel rooms, it is the cost of selling one extra room. So then the question we need to ask here, is the cost of selling one extra room low in hotel industry? The answer is yes, right? Because especially after you cover the fixed cost portion of the total cost. With every additional room you sell, you just need to cover the variable cost. And what is the variable cost in a room? It's most probably cost of getting that room cleaned, cost of amenities in that room, and cost of utilities that are used in that room. And marginal sales costs, especially for like a full service hotel, is low. The last category we have is high marginal production cost. Again, when we say production cost, we are talking about the main product we are selling here, right? And the main product we are selling is the hotel room, hotel bed. So just because there is more demand, are we able to produce one more unit of room? We cannot, right? So the marginal production cost is very high in the hotel industry. So think of all these characteristics, like if there is a service industry that you are interested in applying a revenue management strategy, first you need to look at these characteristics and decide to what extent they apply to that service industry. So these characteristics apply 100% to the airline and to the hotel industries. So now we are going to take a look at extended framework for hospitality revenue management. This is coming from a research article that I have done in 2015, and if you are interested in understanding core revenue management processes better and deeper, this is a suggested reading for this week, so please take a look at it. So now consider a hotel operation where you would like to implement a revenue management strategy for the first time. What steps should you follow? Okay, so C, core revenue management processes, is a set of steps a hotel should implement when they intend to roll out a revenue management strategy. So these processes start with business analysis. So in business analysis, you want to understand overall how the company is doing. So to understand this, you do maybe a very basic SWOT analysis. You know, SWOT analysis looks at internal strengths and weaknesses and outside opportunities and threats. So you need to understand the initial pricing strategy of the hotel, competitor set of this hotel, and what is its price value proposition in comparison to the primary competitors' price and value proposition, right? You want to understand the segmentation, you want to understand historical demand. So all these pieces that will help you to see the initial pricing strategy, initial customer segmentation, initial historical demand of the hotel. So you want to understand all of this. This is business analysis. So next step is the pricing strategy. So based on the business analysis, next step is for the hotel to develop an overall pricing strategy. And this pricing strategy should be for all types of customers, right? Including transient customers, group customers, even, you know, within your transient customers, you will further break them down into different customer segments. So what is the overall pricing strategy? And also, hotel needs to make a decision about the type of pricing they are going to implement, right? And hotels that implement revenue management should have some kind of a dynamic pricing strategy. And when we say dynamic pricing strategy, prices should respond to changing demand in the marketplace, okay? And examples for dynamic pricing strategies are bar pricing, for example, best available rate pricing, open pricing, demand-based pricing. These are the pricing techniques we are going to discuss in strategic pricing topic, which will follow after this introduction to revenue management. And then next we have demand modeling and forecasting. So forecasting is the heart of revenue management, because forecasting tells us approximately, you know, hopefully as accurate as possible, how the demand is going to be in the short run, right? And when we say demand, in very basic terms, we are talking about occupancy. How do we expect occupancy to be like, right, on a particular day? And this is where we do some type of, you know, forecasting modeling, right? And it is going to involve mostly regression type of modeling. Very complex, again, not something you would do personally, but you need to understand what variables are considered and what are the assumptions of this algorithm that your revenue management system is working with. So following demand modeling and forecasting, we have inventory and price optimization. So your revenue management system is going to make an occupancy recommendation to you, right? Based on the data the system is fed, system is going to say, okay, expected occupancy is, let's say, 80%. So if the expected occupancy is 80%, what should be the price, right? In price optimization, you decide what the price should be for that day, as well as for the next 365 days, right? When revenue management department inputs decisions into the system, it is usually for the next 365 days. And along with price optimization, we have inventory optimization. So what is this? Every day, hotel is going to work with fixed number of rooms they have to sell, right? This is the inventory. And then we have different price points for different type of customers. This is the idea of price discrimination, right? We will talk about this concept as well. So then when you have this limited number of rooms to sell every day, what, like how many rooms should you reserve for what type of customer, right? You have group customers, you have transient customers, you have different rate categories, different room types. So how should you do your inventory management? So this is the step you make a decision about that. Next step is setting booking controls. Booking controls are also called rate fences, terms and conditions, okay? So rate fences, terms and conditions, and booking controls are attached to the price, okay? And they are very handy as a result of hotel industry implementing price discrimination. So price discrimination is basically for the same room, for the same night, you have multiple prices. And you need to differentiate the value of these prices, right? And to do that, we use booking controls. We use terms and conditions. For example, for the same type of room, for the same night, if you would like to give a discount to the customer, then you ask them maybe to book 2 or 3 weeks in advance, right? That is the booking control. I'm going to talk about them a little bit more shortly. But after we do inventory and price optimization and setting booking controls, then we need to disseminate our pricing information to different distribution channels. So we have direct and indirect channels, and it is the revenue director's decision, right, which distribution channels that he or she is going to use to distribute the rooms. And we have a whole chapter on this topic as well. And then finally, after we complete these processes, we need to do performance analysis and evaluation. We have to check whether our revenue management strategy has been successful or not. Okay, this is performance analysis and evaluation. And in your other classes, maybe you learned that we should check our performance to the budget or to last year, right? To decide whether we have been successful or not. But in revenue management context, those are not accurate, okay, and they are not relevant. In revenue management context, if we want to know if a hotel has been successful or not, we have to compare hotel's performance to the competitor's performance. And we have a company called Smith Travel Research, STR, recently acquired by CoStar. STR prepares a benchmarking report where hotels' occupancy, average daily rate, and RevPAR is readily compared to competitor set's RevPAR. And the competitor set is identified by the hotel itself, okay? And we have also a whole chapter where we talk about performance analysis and evaluation. So these are the core revenue management processes. And for the moment, it's okay, and I think perfectly normal if you don't understand this process well. This class is actually dedicated to understand these processes better, okay? And we will roughly spend a chapter discussing most of those. And by the end of the term, these processes and how this whole revenue management strategy works should become more and more clear to you. So apart from the inner circle here, we see an outside circle as well. So this is about the socio-economical environment that the hotel is operating, right? We have legal, economic, socio-cultural environment, we have competition, we have to keep up with the technology, and we have to, train our employees about, all about revenue management and what their role is in the organization to make the revenue strategy work. And then we have, of course, our customers. Customer perceptions of our pricing decisions and price communication is very important, right? If the customer thinks something we do is unfair, then this is not in our best interest to implement that. And also, as revenue management is becoming to the forefront of a hotel strategy, it is usually attached to overall corporate strategy, right? So that's why we have the business strategy here as well as a component. Once again, if you would like to learn more about this extended framework for hospitality revenue management, please take a look at the recommended article. So now let's look at some of these components in a little bit more detail. So this one is about benchmarking. And benchmarking again is used for performance analysis and evaluation in revenue management context. And there are 3 key statistics that you need to remember. And these statistics are also provided by Smith Travel Research in the simulation that you are going to play as well. MPI is called Occupancy Index or Market Penetration Index. ARI is called Average Rate Index. RGI is called RevPAR Index or Revenue Generation Index. Occupancy Index is your occupancy divided by comp set occupancy. You don't obviously see individual occupancies of your competitors. You just see an average and compare your occupancy with the comp set occupancy. For average rate index, your average daily rate is compared with comp set average daily rate. And for RGI, your RevPAR is compared with comp set RevPAR. So here, I'm sure you know that RevPAR, revenue per available room, is a combination of occupancy and ADR, right? If you multiply a hotel's occupancy with its average daily rate, you should get RevPAR. So to understand whether a hotel has been successful in their revenue management implementation, you need to look at RGI, RevPAR Index, okay? So your occupancy might be higher than your competitors, or your rate might be higher than your competitors. This doesn't mean that you have been successful in revenue management terms. To see whether you have been successful in comparison to the primary comp set that you identify, your RevPAR should be better than them, okay? So at this point, know only this much. We have whole chapter where we will discuss competition and competitive set analysis. So next, let's take a look at rate fences. So rate fences, rate restrictions, terms and conditions, booking controls, they are all the same thing, okay? And rate fence is defined as something that protects a rate from another customer, right? So here is the logic. So let's say we are looking at a hotel that implements revenue management through demand-based pricing methodology, and they are using best available rate, bar rate, okay? So from the bar rate, if you are going to give a low discount, you know, your fences are not going to be very strong, right? And when we say low discount, I am going to associate these with certain percentages. Low discount means any discount below 15%, 1-5, not 50. So any discount lower than 15% is considered low discount. Medium discount is considered anywhere between 15% to 25%. And high discount is considered anything above 25%. Okay? And the logic here is very simple. Higher the discount, more restrictive your fences should be, right? So think of it this way. You are rewarding the customer by giving them a discount. What do you get in return, right? So your return will be the rate restrictions or these fences that you impose on your customers. And later on we are going to see examples of this, but just, you know, keep this in mind for the moment. So here are some examples of rate fences, and they are not limited to this, but I just want to show you, you know, some examples. So here we have 5 types of rate fences: rule type, advance requirement, refundability, changes allowed, and required time of stay. So rule type can be advance purchase versus advance reservation. In advance purchase, you might ask customer to pay fully or maybe, to pay a deposit. In advance reservation, they are just booking the room. They are not actually purchasing it. Advance requirement is you might ask them to book 3 days all the way up to 30 days in advance. Nowadays, nobody wants to book 30 days, 21 days in advance. Maybe we can look at long haul versus short haul travelers into a destination. If you are looking at a short haul type of travel distance, you are looking at 3 to 7 days. If you are looking at long haul, then people tend to book like 30 to 14 days in advance, right, to plan their trip. Then you might have refundability restrictions. Maybe you give no refund or full refund. Maybe you provide a percentage refund or a fixed dollar refund. Changes allowed. You might allow no changes or unlimited changes, or maybe they can change date of stay but not number of nights. Maybe you let them do unlimited changes but you don't provide refund. Then sometimes, to differentiate leisure customers from business customers, hotels impose weekday versus weekend restriction, right? If you have, for example, minimum Saturday night stay requirement, then this rate is for leisure customers, right? Because business travelers tend to stay at the hotel usually during weekdays. So as we wrap up this presentation here, I would like to share with you key revenue management measures in different type of industries. And usually when you look at these measures, you are looking at a combination between an average rate and some type of like occupancy, an occupancy type of measure in that industry, and you combine them together to generate a key revenue management measure. For the hotel, the measure is revenue per available room. For an airline, the measure is revenue per available seat mile. For a restaurant, the measure is revenue per available seat hour, RevPAS. For a golf course, the measure is revenue per available tea time. For a spa, the measure is revenue per available treatment hour. Some of these other industries, we are going to take a look at them later on in the term. So overall, when we look at revenue management as a discipline, it is not a computer system, okay? Yes, most likely you are going to work with a revenue management system, but it is only a tool for revenue team to use, okay? And I see myself revenue management both as an art and science that involves people and systems at the same time, okay? The forecasting part is definitely science, but putting together pricing strategy and communicating this pricing strategy to the customer is definitely an art, okay? So revenue management is an integrated set of business processes that bring people together, people and systems, with the goal of understanding the market. And when we say people, we talk about revenue management team, okay? And revenue management team is made up of your revenue director, revenue analyst, reservations team, and also you readily work with other teams at the hotel, including your sales and marketing team. Usually your financial controller attends weekly revenue meetings, your general manager attends weekly meetings, and if you are implementing revenue management in other departments, your F&B staff and even your spa team might also join this meeting. And the key point in revenue management is to anticipate customers' behavior and respond quickly to exploit opportunities that present themselves, right? So you need to be constantly scanning the consumer behavior, the marketplace, and your primary competitors. So to wrap up this discussion here, I would like to present you with the revenue cycle. So what is the logic here? So it is your revenue department that price the rooms. Okay, so this is revenue department's job to forecast the demand and to price the rooms and to distribute room information to different channels. But it is sales and marketing that communicate your pricing information to the customers, right? They do price communication, so they are the ones that create the demand. They prepare the advertisements. They sort of prepare these packages that people buy into, etc. So all these are job of sales and marketing. They create the demand, but then customer buys into this, and then they arrive the hotel, right? So when customer checks into the hotel, they want price to match the value, and also whatever promises were given by sales and marketing department, right, in that advertisement, the customer wants all of those to be delivered to them. So I call this revenue cycle. For a revenue management strategy to work, your price should match your value, and when customer comes to the hotel, they should be satisfied with their experience, right? So that revenue cycle is completed. One last time, the snapshot of what is happening here. Revenue management prices the rooms. Sales and marketing communicates pricing information to the customer, but it is the property staff that deliver the guest satisfaction, right? They deliver the value. And all of these together should work hand in hand to make a revenue strategy work for a hotel. Hello everyone. In this part of the lecture, we are going to discuss strategic pricing, mainly what makes pricing strategic and why, when we think in revenue management context, we need to think about strategic pricing. Let's go. So by the end of this class, you should be able to understand why pricing should be strategic, as I have just mentioned, explain the most important pricing techniques used by firms that implement revenue management, and discuss the importance of pricing to revenue management. Remember, developing a pricing strategy is the second step in core revenue management processes after the business analysis, and it sets one of the cornerstones of revenue management implementation. So what is pricing at first place? Of course, it is the amount of money charged for a product or for a service. It is considered to be the most flexible element of marketing mix, right? Because when we price something, what is that price based on, right? Is it based on cost? Is it based on a profit margin that company wants to achieve? Is it based on customer expectations? Is it based on demand? Is it based on competitors' prices? What is it based on, right? That makes pricing very, very flexible. Because it is so flexible, it can get the company into most trouble because you need to justify, right, why the price is as such. And consumers over time develop attitudes towards prices, right? And these attitudes are difficult to change. So, for example, if a customer is used to paying a certain amount for coffee every morning, to get them paid maybe $1 or $2 more is difficult because their reference price point is something else. And in consumer's mind, and think of yourself as a consumer when you read this statement, price is always measured against value, right? What is in it for me is something that customer always ask. What can I get out of this transaction? What does it mean to me? Is it good value? Is it worth it? In the context of this class, we are going to look at several different pricing techniques, including cost-based pricing, value-based pricing, demand-based pricing, open pricing, and attribute-based pricing. The most important ones that I want you to take away from today's discussion are value-based pricing and demand-based pricing. Cost-based pricing is outdated, but I still want to touch upon it so that you understand why it is outdated in revenue management context. So according to Charles Dudley Warner, there is no such thing as absolute value in this world. You can only estimate what a thing is worth to you. Okay, so I love this quote because it touches upon how relative value of something is, right, according to the person that is looking at it. So what is the official definition of value? What consumers expect in exchange for a price during the acquisition of a product or service. And consumers calculate the value based on their perceived value of a product or service less the cost of obtaining that product or service. So here, several things you need to keep in mind. First is perceived value. So value is always according to the person that looks at it, right? And different people value things differently. This is very important to remember. And value equals perceived value minus cost of obtaining that product or service. And the official, further official definition of customer perceived value, it can be material value and quality, benefits, received from ownership or usage, or esteem associated with the product or service. And total acquisition cost includes price and cost, such as time it takes to produce or the product, or cost to get the product. So in terms of an overall pricing philosophy of a hospitality firm, these are the three important terms that I would like you to understand and remember. So the first concept is price parity, and you may have heard of this as rate parity. And this is the practice of maintaining consistent prices across all channels of distribution. So this term is mainly related to management of distribution channels, right? Hotel rooms will be available on hotels' direct channels and indirect channels, such as online travel agencies. We call them OTAs. And when hotels work with OTAs, usually they require price parity, right? So this is a topic that we are going to discuss further in detail later in this term. But for the moment, I want you to understand the meaning of the term price parity. And hotel needs to make a decision whether they will follow price parity or not, right? In the simulation, you have to make a decision whether you will follow price parity or not. Next concept in relation to having a pricing philosophy is price transparency. Price transparency is the ability to observe prices. So not all hotel prices are transparent, okay? This is important to understand. All the rates displayed on the website, we call them public rates. All the public rates are transparent. But for example, when hotel signs a contract with a corporation, right, we call them corporate rates. Those are not transparent. Group rates that hotel sales and marketing team negotiates with the clients, they are not transparent. And the third concept is price integrity. Price integrity is the maintenance of consistent prices for similar purchase conditions. Maintaining a price integrity is very important from a long-term perspective, okay, from customers' point of view. Because customers, if you do not have price integrity, customers might find this unfair and they may complain about this, across social media, which can affect your reputation, which can affect your value. Okay, so please remember the definition and importance of these three terms. Next, I would like to talk a little bit about the concept of value and reputation in the marketplace. So there is something called value index, okay? And value index is a quantitative measure of value used to compare against the competitors as perceived by consumers. So you can think of this as a large summary of your like user-generated content across guest reviews and ratings on the social media landscape. And there are companies, consulting companies, hospitality service providers that does this calculation for the hotels and provide this sort of as a service. And if hotels choose to pay for the service, at the end of each month, they can get a summary of their value index. So this also has another name. It's called reputation index. So you can get a composite score of your customer comments in comparison to your competitors. Sorry, we are moving in the opposite direction here. Okay. And according to a research that is done by Center of Hospitality Research, Cornell University, if a hotel increases its review scores by 1 point on a 5-point scale, the hotel can increase its price by 11.2% and still maintain the same occupancy or market share. This is very important, right? So if people, customers, talk about you better than the competitors, then it is reasonable to charge higher prices than your competitors. And in this research, it is as high as 11.2% if you can increase your review score by 1 point on a 5-point scale. So this should show you the importance of reputation and importance of your valuation, right, from customers' perspective. So now I would like to jump into looking at pricing as a strategy rather than as a tactic. So if you remember one of the strategy classes you have taken in the past, you should know that when we say strategy, we think long term, right? And when we talk about tactical decisions, we think short term. So here are a couple of pointers to differentiate them. Tactics are about what decisions will win business today, what decisions will maximize revenue this week or this month, right? So this is mostly about weekly revenue meetings and monthly projections. And when we look at strategy, we think about what strategies will keep customers coming back, what strategies will maximize revenue over time. And we think like long-term process in general, budget planning process, business plan, pricing meetings, and quarterly performance reviews. So how do we put pricing as strategy into context? So let's start with strategy from the corporate level. A corporate strategy is the way a company creates value through the configuration and coordination of its multi-market activities. So what is the reason a corporation exists, right? The objective is to create value for various stakeholders, mainly for the company owners, right? Stockholders or company, including company employees. Marketing strategy, on the other hand, is the way to create value for the customers through product distribution, communication, and service. Then pricing strategy is the part of the marketing strategy that defines the way to extract value from the customers. So how do we extract value from the customers? Based on their willingness to pay for the value that they got. Okay, so here is how we bring down corporate strategy to marketing strategy to the pricing strategy, right? We should look at pricing that as something that serves us in the long run, right? And we are trying to extract value from the customers based on their willingness to pay for the value that they got. Strategic pricing pyramid. I like very much thinking about strategic pricing in this pyramid approach. So let me tell you how it works. So on the bottom of this pyramid, we are looking at value creation. Okay, first, we as hospitality industry professionals, we have to create values people are willing to pay for. So first step looks at economic value, offering and design of the products and services, our segmentation, and our brand in general. So after we create the right value, you know, for the right type of target customers that we have to create a pricing structure that matches the value that we deliver. Okay, so in the pricing structure, we are looking at pricing metrics, rate restrictions and controls we put around our pricing structure. The third step is price and value communication. So now that we create good values people are willing to pay for, and we have a matching pricing structure, how should we communicate this pricing information to our consumers? So this is about price value communication and value selling tools. And the next step is to set up an overall pricing policy for this hotel, right? You need to think about negotiation and tactics with your, you know, like with your corporate clients, with your group type of clients, and you need to set a certain criteria for discounting, right? Discounting in revenue management context is the last thing that we should do, but when and if we have to do it, how should we do it? You need to set up a strategy for that as well. And next, on top, we have our overall price levels. So if we summarize them, this is what they are. Value creation, create good values that customers will pay for. Pricing structure, make pricing align with value delivered and cost to serve. Price and value communication, justify your prices in terms of customer economics. And setting price levels, set prices to maximize profit. So as we start going into revenue management more and more, you are going to see a shift from looking at maximizing revenues towards maximizing profits. Okay, this is something we are going to discuss also later in this term. In this part of the lecture, we are going to take a look at different room pricing techniques. So the first pricing technique I would like to very briefly talk about, is cost-based pricing. So cost-based pricing works very simple, right? You are going to look at cost of one room. You can look at, you know, variable cost plus fixed cost portion, you know, of the total cost, and you put all the costs together, and from this cost, how much profit you would like to get, right? And you basically come up with a price. It is usually cost plus markup equals selling price. So cost-based pricing involves adding a target margin to the cost of producing a product or service. So when we look at this as a pricing technique, we see that it satisfies no goal other than achieving target margin, right? In the context of hotel room revenue management pricing, we are looking at dynamic pricing practices, and certainly cost-based pricing, it's the opposite of that, right? You decide on the price based on the markup you would like to put on top of the cost. So cost-based pricing is very outdated and should not be used. But I'm not saying that you should, you know, lower your price like at a level where you can't cover the cost. Of course not, right? That is economically not the smart thing to do. You should always price higher than the cost, but you shouldn't set up a target margin based on the cost, is what I am saying. Prices should be dynamic based on demand. So cost-based pricing is what hotel industry used to use, right, many years ago. But when we look like F&B, like restaurants, today still most of them price based on cost. So the next pricing technique we are going to take a look at and spend some time on is the concept of value-based pricing. So in value-based pricing, the purpose is to create good value for the target customers, and to do that we should try to estimate how much value different combination of benefits could represent to customers. And I have a quite extreme example here, but it makes the point. So this example is Ryanair. Ryanair is a limited service airline based in Europe, and the pricing strategy I'm going to show you right now is something they have tried, okay? So if you want to print out the boarding pass to check in, it's going to cost about €5. If you want to check a bag, it's going to cost you €10. If you have a baby and if you want to take the baby's car, that's €20. If you want baby to sit on your lap, that's another €20. If you would like a front line seat, it's €3. And if you would like to use the toilets on short flights, it is €10. So when you look at some of these components, okay, some of these attributes they include here, there's no way that these prices are based on cost, right? You cannot put a cost, you can, but not easily, to sit on the front line seat, right? You think about the value. So Ryanair tried to estimate the value of people sitting on the front seat. What is the value for them, and how much are they willing to pay for something like that, right? So Ryanair, you know, prior to implementing this idea, they must have done some kind of customer survey to understand the demand and to understand people's willingness to pay. So having said that, this is something that budget airlines do, right? Ryanair customers are extremely price sensitive, and most of them maybe do not have children, because the more children, small children you have, the more expensive the ticket is going to be, right? But I think those things aside, it's a very good example of value-based pricing might look like. So the term value is actually coming from the field of economics. It refers to the overall satisfaction a customer receives from using this product or service offering. And economists call this term utility, okay? According to them, value is defined as the utility gained from the product. So it is the satisfaction, happiness, the feelings, hopefully positive values, positive utility from using that product or service offering. So how can we implement value-based selling? So here are the steps. First, we have to understand customers' key issues and value drivers, okay? We need to segment the customers into different baskets, right, according to their social demographics or buying behavior. And we have to understand what is valuable for them. This is the first step. And second step is to define your differentiation. So the differentiation should be something that is unique to you and your customers value, okay, that other competitors cannot easily copy. And you cannot develop a value-based price without a differentiation. In marketing, this term is called USP, unique selling proposition. So you need to have a unique selling proposition if you would like to implement value-based pricing. For the case of Ryanair, for example, their unique selling proposition is we provide the cheapest tickets in the market, right? The base ticket is extremely cheap. and everything else you have to pay for. This is their USP for their extremely price-sensitive customers. And this is their target, by the way, very price-sensitive, budget-driven customers. The third step is developing a value-based price. So if you have a differentiation your customer values, but you have failed to capture this in your price, you are leaving money on the table. So once you have a service offering or a product that your customer is willing to pay for, the next step is you need to develop the value-based price. Just like Ryanair did, for example, €3 for a frontline seat or $10 for using the toilet on short flights, right? They try to capture this. And to me, this is one of the most difficult steps, right? How can you compute your customer's willingness to pay? And then next step is the place where your sales and marketing team comes into, right? Now you need to sell this offering, and this is the value proposition. In your value proposition, you should clearly explain why should the customer choose you rather than one of your competitors. So from now on, when you look at an offering, when you look at, a hotel room offering or a price communication of that sort, check whether you see a clear value proposition. This is very important, and still many companies do not do this successfully. And also, another important aspect we need to think about is our industry, right? We are not selling a product, we are selling a service. So, how are services different than products? Customers cannot assess the quality of a service even after the consumption, right? Because most of the time, they are not standardized. And there's a service provider, and because we are dealing with human providing services, it is very difficult to do a comparison, right? Everybody's experience can be different depending on the service offering and depending on the service provider. For this reason, we should try to manage the perception of value. And how can we do that? I want to show you a couple of examples how hospitality and non-hospitality companies creates value. So this one is the concept of heavenly bed from the Starwood Hotel Group. So if you are not familiar with them, they have this concept of heavenly bed. They say their bedding is so comfortable, you feel like you're in heaven. And they not only have you experience those in their hotel rooms, you can purchase the heavenly bed, okay? And they are not cheap. Here I have some prices. I think these are even a few years old in Chinese renminbi. You can buy bed and bedding set, bed mattress and base, and create your heavenly bed, right? This is how Starwood try to create value for their loyal customers. They can have the same wonderful heavenly sleep that they had at Starwood at their homes. Here is another good example. This is Banyan Tree Hotels and Resorts. This is a company that I work with in revenue management context. And this example, this was a social media post, and the hashtag is greater good. And they're explaining what they do in Phuket. So in Phuket, they have, built more than 7,000 trees, and they brought actually the color and life back to this land after 3 years. Okay, and this is, like they're explaining their vision and mission, because Phuket's Bang Tao Bay is the first location, that Banyan Tree started building their hotels. And this was a place that was polluted by tin mining, and they actually, Banyan Tree founder Mr. KP Ho, they changed this place, completely by cleaning it and planting all these trees. And right now it is a wonderful, wonderful destination. and they are informing this to their customers, right? And this was done 40 years ago, but educating customers about the values of banyan tree hotels and resorts. So this is how they try to create value. Here's another one I like. So this is a restaurant, right? When the restaurant is small, you have capacity problem, but the owner is creative. It is so cute, right? How they did up and down the seating places. It's brilliant. What a brilliant way to create value. Here is a hotel brand, Citizen M. Sleep, work, meet, entertain. All Citizen M hotels, one fixed price. Right here, their value proposition is very clear. It is mostly for executives or remote workers. A lot of expat. What is this called? They identify as what is it called? When they leave a destination and with their family, they go completely to an offshore different destination to remotely work from there. So this is targeted for that type of traveler, right? And they say they have a unique proposition and they explain what the proposition is. And here, this is a cosmetic brand. This is also so simple and so brilliant, right? You let customers segment themselves. No, don't touch me. I want to shop on my own. I don't want your recommendation. This is what you are telling to the sales associate. Versus if you pick a red basket or you would like to be assisted. So simple, but brilliant. So this is a hotel brand in Hong Kong. So in the middle of COVID, October 2020, the announcement from Cathay Group in regards to Cathay Pacific and Cathay Dragon employees. So Cathay Group is the largest airline group in Hong Kong. They laid off a lot of employees. So Eaton Hotel Hong Kong says, it is sad for those losing their jobs, for the industry and for our city, and we feel for our friends and colleagues. So they said both airlines have been known for remarkable service and their wonderful employees. So we invite you to contact Eaton Hong Kong as we are recruiting several positions in sales and marketing, front office, and our restaurant and bars. So they send this information publicly, right? And this is such a way to raise awareness and to sort of create value, right? When customers see this, they value this, and just as a result of this, they might choose Eaton Hong Kong. Here is another hotel in Hong Kong. This one is very interesting, controversial. I cover this like a case study in my classes. So let's look at the announcement. We love animals, but no pets allowed. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, some hotels in Hong Kong launch staycations with pets. As our focus remains, we love to care for human, we are pet-free. So this is the message, right? And they have several hashtags, and then the photo is a photo of the hotel. And look at some of the comments. So this is the first comment is from the Eaton Hotel, which I showed you just in the previous page. To throw shade at other hotels is rather a peculiar way to market a hotel. Besides, I would love to understand what research substantiates the claim that hosting pets affects the safety of other guests and increases the risk of COVID-19. If you trust in the effectiveness of your safety and hygiene measures, this should be covered. And another general manager says, totally bizarre. Restaurant manager says, this is ridiculous. So there were many, after, you see now just 4 comments, but within a matter of minutes, there were many negative comments, and Hotel Icon just took this advertisement away, right? So they were just trying to create value by saying, we are a very clean hotel. We are so careful with our hygiene that we don't allow any pets, but it wasn't the right way to communicate this message. So it started destroying value instead of creating. So the message was withdrawn. So these are different ways to create value in hospitality industry. But then how can we capture value in service economy? Remember we said services are different from the products and we have to manage the perception of value. So how should we do that? So these are the questions that we should ask. Where are the opportunities for effective and long-term differentiation? Effective means you are better than your competitors. And you need to think about your target segments, target customers. What do they value, right? And can you do things that are not readily and easily copied by your competitors, right? And what will you do if competitors copy your ideas? Is your value proposition unique, right? If it is unique, is this uniqueness defendable? Can somebody end up copying it, basically, is what this is saying. And then, is it based on a defendable competitive advantage or a core competency competitors cannot easily copy or replicate? To give an example, location, right? If you have the best location or best view, others cannot copy. This one is a unique value proposition that is defendable, right? Or you might have the best Japanese chef in town, for example, that does the best Japanese menu that nobody else in the city can. This also is a value proposition that is unique, right? So this should be the focus. That one thing that differentiates you clearly and cannot be easily copied by your competitors. This is the way to capture the value in service economy. So, in terms of the question itself, how to capture value in service economy, it can be captured through the services that we offer, through product quality, through technology and innovation, through price performance, through brand and image, through distribution sales, and through price and cost relationship. So in this part of the lecture, I would like to talk about how pricing evolved in revenue management realm. But before that, I want to wrap the discussion around value-based pricing. In my mind, value-based pricing is a very important concept, and it is quite abstract and difficult to grasp, right? Because you segment your customers, you try to identify what constitutes value for them, then you try to price that value, right? Yet we have seen different examples of the things that companies are doing to create value, but whatever dynamic based pricing technology that a hotel firm is implementing, they have to think value-based pricing hand in hand, I think. And now, if we look at more specifically how pricing has evolved in revenue management realm, prior to the introduction of revenue management, hotels were using mostly weekday versus weekend pricing, or high season, low season, shoulder season type of pricing. But this became obsolete with technology. Next, most important development in hotel room pricing came around with demand-based pricing. And demand-based pricing is the most popular pricing method that hotels use in revenue management context. And demand-based pricing works with different rate tiers. I will explain you in a minute how this works. And then the third popular pricing technique is called open pricing. So opposite to demand-based pricing, there are no rate tiers for open pricing. Prices can be anything, okay? There are no pre-identified rate categories. Prices can be anything. And through open pricing, we don't need to use booking controls or restrictions or length of stay pricing. LOS means length of stay pricing. Length of stay pricing is something that demand-based pricing uses. But with the introduction of open pricing, you don't need to use any of these pricing controls and restrictions. So let's take a look at demand-based pricing and open pricing in a little bit more detail. And then also we will introduce the concept of attribute-based pricing, which is the newest pricing technique in the hotel industry. So what is demand-based pricing? So demand-based pricing basically means as the demand to the hotel changes, the room prices should also change. This is the very basic way to think about it. So it is the process of combining data analytics, inventory management, pricing, and other marketing tools to predict and then influence demand. So for hotels that want to implement demand-based pricing, they should have a solid understanding of their client base. And when we say a different negotiation approach, actually with a structured demand-based pricing approach, there is no more negotiation with the customers because price is sort of self-explanatory, right? The way you prepare the pricing structure is very clearly communicated to the customer. But to implement this, you need a highly skilled revenue management team. You also need strong technical support by the company, and you need an operations supporting the system, right? You need to be able to rely on the operations to support the system. So, very important term that you need to learn and understand in relation to demand-based pricing is the concept of best available rate. In the hotel industry, this is called bar rate. So what is bar rate? Bar rate is the first price point to be determined. Okay, and how is it determined? Remember, in core revenue management processes, we have the first step business analysis, second step pricing strategy, and third step is demand modeling and forecasting. So when we do demand forecasting, we try to forecast occupancy, and based on the forecasted occupancy, we identify the bar rate, okay, if we implement demand-based pricing. So based on the forecasted demand, we have the bar rate, and this is the first price point to be determined. And bar rate is always a room-only rate, and it is a non-discounted rate. Okay, so bar rate doesn't include breakfast or any other components, and it is a non-discounted rate. And this rate, bar rate, is always available whenever there's a standard sleeping room availability exists at the property. And after, we identify the bar rate as the first price point, bar rate forms the basis for other price points, such as negotiated price, discounted price, or packaged price. How does this work? So let's say bar rate based on occupancy forecast for today is $200, and you want your negotiated rate to be 10% lower than the bar rate. So if the bar rate is $200 and you want negotiated rate to be 10% lower than your bar rate, then your negotiated rate will be 200 minus 20, $180, right? This is how bar rate forms the basis of other price points. You first identify the bar rate, and all other rates are a fraction, of the bar rate. So this is important to understand. So best available rate should be benchmark, taking into account quality and value assessments relative to your primary comp set. You see here, we are talking about demand-based pricing, right? It is not value-based pricing. But even when hotels identify bar rate tiers, bar rate categories, they have to think about quality and value assessment of the hotel in comparison to the primary comp set. So bar rate should be market-based priced and appear competitive when compared to the primary competitor set and also the local marketplace. Guests must be willing and able to pay this price point, and they should believe it to be of fair value. So these are all important qualities of bar rates. So what does bar rates might look like? So I have two examples here. So this is a bar rate structure. Let's look at the less complicated one first, Hotel Y. Excuse me, Hotel Y has 6 bar rates, starting from bar level 0 all the way to bar level 5. So the cheapest bar level is bar level 5, $1,400. It goes all the way down to bar level 0, $2,550. Right, so this part of bar rate example, this is part of setting an overall pricing strategy, which is number 2 step in core revenue management processes. Right, a hotel has to decide how many bar levels they will have. In this example, 6 bar levels. What should be the lowest bar rate? What should be the highest bar rate? What should be the rate difference between each bar rate? Okay, all these decisions are a part of initial determination of pricing strategy. Then Hotel X has more complex bar rate structure with 9 levels. Actually, the minimum and maximum are the same in both examples, right? But the variation and the difference between each bar rate differs. So if you ask me, typically for hotels that implement demand-based pricing, how many bar levels they have, I have seen some hotels with very simple bar rate structure, just like in this example, 5-6 bar rate categories, and I have seen some full service type of hotels with more than 400 rooms with up to 25-30 bar rates. Okay, so it can get very complicated. But when we look today to the majority of the hotels that implement revenue management, majority of them use demand-based pricing. So they use a similar bar rate structure to implement revenue management at their hotels. So next concept I would like to introduce is open pricing. So in open pricing, in contrast to demand-based pricing, there are no predetermined rate categories. Okay, that's why it's called open pricing. All prices are open. Prices can be anything. And for this pricing technique, open pricing is a term that is coined by revenue service provider Duetto. We are going to talk about this company later in the semester. And demand-based pricing, bar rates, is a term that is being used by IDEAS revenue management system. So IDEAS revenue management system is known for bar rates, and Duetto revenue management system is known for open pricing. So in open pricing, pricing of all room types, channels, and dates are done independently of each other. So this is a big differentiation than demand-based pricing, right? In demand-based pricing, you first identify the bar rate, and all other rate categories are a variation from the bar rate. So the origin is the bar rate. And in open pricing, there is no origin, there is no benchmark, right? All the room types, channels, and the dates, pricing is done independent of each other. Okay, so price points are based on demand of each room type, channel, pace, and date. So open pricing is a pricing technique implemented by hotels. It is still today far less popular than demand-based pricing. Demand-based pricing is still the leader. And the last pricing technique I would like to introduce to you is the concept of attribute-based pricing. So attribute-based pricing is not a new pricing technique, right? In like other industries, such as, like if you would like to buy a car, right? You have the basic car, and then with every additional attribute you would like to add to a car, you are going to pay additional. Or you have seen the example of Ryanair, budget airlines. They also charge for many attributes that they have. So hotel industry also is interested in implementing attribute-based pricing. But how would it work, or what would it look like in hotel industry? It would look something like this. So we have traditional room type, room price combo, right? And that is something like this. Let's say you want to have a king bed, city view, non-smoking, prepaid room for $185, or a king bedroom, sea view, smoking, and with flexible cancellation, it's $235, right? These combinations right now are already made, and we have these combinations. We put a price on them and we are selling them to the customer. So in the new way, I call the attribute-based pricing, ABP, the new way, hotel is going to break down its room inventory into different attributes that they choose, right? In this example, we have bed type as one attribute, king bed versus queen bed. We have the view as another attribute, city view versus sea view. Smoking as one attribute, smoking versus non-smoking. And we have booking control, prepaid versus flexible cancellation as another attribute. And it is the customer that is going to choose the attributes that they want to pay for. Okay, in terms of price presentation, this can be done in two ways. You can either have attribute prices readily made available, which is not the case in this example. In this example, customer chooses what they want and then they see the total price of the room in their shopping cart. But hotel companies might want to make this more transparent by having prices readily available for each attribute. So then you might ask me, we don't see attribute-based pricing being implemented. Why are you teaching this to us? Because it looks like this will come in the future of hotel room pricing. And prior to COVID-19, international hotel companies such as Hyatt and such as Marriott, they were actually doing initial tests on attribute-based pricing. But with COVID, they stopped everything. And I hope now that COVID is over, they will start working on this once again. So in a snapshot, these are the different pricing techniques that are used in the hotel industry. So to finish our discussion on pricing, let's do a quick recap. So hotels should focus on price rather than cost when balancing demand and supply. And cost-based pricing should be replaced with market or demand-based pricing. And there should be a rational reason for each price point, and it should be easy to buy and sell from customers' perspective.